Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. If you're anywhere around 18 years old right now, you absolutely know how stubborn and just flat-out frustrating family conflict can feel. Honestly, a lot of the time it feels like you're talking to a literal brick wall. So today we're going to use this whiteboard to draw out the invisible mechanics of all that family tension. Our title today is basically exactly what it feels like: why parents and children stop understanding each other.
So, here's the big core mystery we're trying to solve today. Why do the people who care the most feel the absolute least heard? Well, the secret here is that the issue isn't a lack of love. Seriously, families don't usually fall apart just because someone stopped caring. What's actually happening is a fundamental mismatch in how things are translated between parents and children.
Okay, let's dive into this concept. We call this a mismatch in meaning. And this happens when two people look at the exact same situation but experience it totally differently because of their own unique pressures. Just think about it. When a parent is desperately trying to protect your physical safety, to a teenager, it usually just sounds like a complete lack of trust. Both sides are fiercely guarding different valuables, and that is exactly where the communication breaks down.
Looking at it neutrally, you and your parents aren't even fighting over the same object. Your parent is guarding things like safety, order, reputation, and your future stability. But you're protecting your autonomy, your dignity, your privacy, and just your basic right to grow up. You are both guarding entirely different, hidden valuables, but you're treating the argument like you're fighting over the exact same thing.
Let's watch how this actually builds in a classic example. Say a parent tells you, "Come home early." Their intent is usually pretty simple. "I need to know you are safe." It's like they have this locked cupboard of fragile valuables, and they're just trying to keep everything perfectly secure. But your interpretation? You only hear the part of the message that threatens your protections. You hear, "You think I cannot be trusted." So you feel this massive sting of suspicion, while they are just drowning in the anxiety of keeping you safe. And this mismatch translates directly to your sense of identity. Imagine a parent saying, "Where's something more decent?" The parent genuinely thinks they're just protecting your reputation or your social safety. But what does the teen hear? They hear, "Your body and your judgment are not yours." Think of a teenager's identity as a newly painted, incredibly beautiful picture frame. If a parent carelessly scratches that frame with a small, offhand correction, the teen is going to react explosively, because to them, their actual identity feels threatened.
The really crucial point here is this. Control and independence are often just forms of fear, wearing different clothing. Picture a massive tug-of-war rope drawn right here on our board. The parent fears chaos and losing their authority, so they pull super hard on their end. Meanwhile, the child fears humiliation and being trapped, so they pull back just as hard. But the tighter both sides pull to avoid losing, the less either of them can actually move. They're just totally stuck in tension.
Now, the tricky part is that neither side ever directly names their fear. Instead, the fear comes out disguised. Imagine drawing all these different masks on the whiteboard for these behaviors. You've got repeated instructions, sudden anger over tiny things, shutting down in total silence, extreme defensiveness, or throwing out those classic phrases like, "because I said so," or "you never listen to me." It's never actually about the small stuff. It's literally just fear wearing a mask.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most massive hidden gaps in any family: respect. To a parent, respect usually means obeying the rules, speaking politely, and acknowledging their life experience. But to a child, respect means being heard, having a little privacy, and actually being taken seriously. Both sides are demanding respect using the exact same word, but they are visualizing completely different things.
Mapping out these hidden protections literally makes the invisible gap visible. When a parent sets strict rules, they're usually protecting safety and stability. When they criticize strongly, they're guarding your future and reputation. But when a child argues back, they're protecting their dignity, autonomy, and identity. If a parent constantly repeats themselves, that's just a fear of losing control. And if a child withdraws into silence, that's a fear of being dismissed or emotionally unsafe. When you look at it this way, arguments are really just these hidden protection strategies violently colliding with each other.
But here's where it gets kinda dangerous. Small meanings become long memories. Think of it like drawing a tiny leak in a roof on our whiteboard here. At first, it's just a single drop, one isolated argument. But water spreads out of sight. One hurt becomes a pattern, and that pattern becomes the story you tell yourself about your family. By the time the ceiling finally caves in, the damage is huge, even though it all started with just one tiny little drop.
That leaky roof creates what we call the conflict loop. Trace the steps with me here. Step 1, someone expresses a concern. Step 2, the other person immediately gets defensive. Step 3, that defense breeds suspicion. And Step 4, which leads to an even stronger defense. Before you know it, people aren't even arguing about the present request anymore. They're just responding to past memories, old grudges, and tones of voice. And inside this loop, both sides feel 100% justified.
This loop leads to some incredibly painful reversals in family life. When a teen stays silent, they genuinely mean, "I just need some space." But the parent feels, "You are completely shutting me out." On the flip side, when a parent lays down really firm rules, they mean, "I am keeping us safe." But the teen feels, "You don't see me as grown." So a child's desperate need for breathing room looks exactly like disrespect, and a parent's scared pressure looks like a total lack of trust. I want to pause the pacing here for a second and just let this emotional core sink in. Do I still belong to you while becoming myself? If you are 18 stepping out into your own life, this is the ultimate question. Growing up means separating, but doing so without losing that connection is the deepest, most profound shared fear for both you and your parents. You both want to hold on, you're just doing it in very different ways.
So, how do we actually shift towards a resolution? Well, you have to learn to read the system, not the symptom. Recognizing this entire pattern we've mapped out gives you a superpower. It gives you the power to step completely out of the conflict loop. You can finally separate the person you love from the fear that is driving their incredibly frustrating behavior.
You break the loop by replacing blame with precision. The very next time you find yourself stuck in a stubborn family argument, stop and ask yourself these 3 questions. What feels at risk here? What is actually being guarded? And what would this person lose if they just gave in? Asking these questions helps you find the very first crack in that solid wall of tension.
And that brings us to the bridge. Look, the goal here isn't to reach total agreement, and it definitely isn't about becoming a quote-unquote perfect family. It's simply about building a bridge so we can stop treating every single conflict like it's a personal attack. It's about seeing that, at the end of the day, both sides are just trying their absolute best to protect something incredibly valuable. Which leaves us with this final provocative question drawn on our board today. What would help this relationship feel safe enough to be understood? I really want you to think about that, because you're empowered now. You don't have to look at your family dynamics as random, chaotic drama anymore. It's a system, and you now have the exact tools to read it clearly. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking the right questions, and I'll catch you next time.